Good day, everyone. This is David Ellis, and I'm here today with Linda Yablonsky once again. Now, Linda is multifaceted. She knows a lot about a number of stuff. And today I'm going to be asking her a bunch of questions concerning a topic that I'm hoping that she knows about, which is womanhood and femininity. Now, Linda has no idea the questions I'm going to ask her, which is a good thing because, I'm just going to be on the spot with a lot of stuff. We have done absolutely no prep for this interview. We're going to talk like people talk, not like interview and guest talk. Linda, the reason why I chose this particular topic is because a number of people, there are a whole bunch of coaches out there, a whole bunch of wellness people, they're not touching this topic, right? They're frightened to touch this topic. They're absolutely petrified. They don't want to be on the record talking about womanhood and femininity at all. It's like some sort of demon topic. And trust me, I've asked a lot of them, what do you want to talk about womanhood and femininity? It's a subject that people are not talking about. And it's like, they're like, yeah, I don't know. Can we skew the topic? No, we're talking about this. Okay, the reason why I chose this topic is because there are a bunch of men who are uneducated. And when I say uneducated, I mean like really dumb. Okay, uneducated. But it's not that they don't want to know, it's that they don't have the correct questions to ask. So I have come prepared because they don't know what the woman experiences, they don't know what the feminine experience is. Okay, and so there are a number of things that I want to ask you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, let's get to some definitions. What, in your understanding, is womanhood?
Wow. It's a lot of things. Whew.
Because I can tell you what the men's definition is. You want me to start you off with that?
Yeah.
Men's definition of womanhood is that there is a female. The female leads company. I must get with the female a lot of there's some basic thinking, right? So when people think, when men think of womanhood, they think of a female mother, right? Produce offspring, right? And some men think in terms of transaction. They think in terms of, the woman is going to complete me. Yeah, I hate just saying that was a lot.
Yes. And when you started, you said, did you say men are ignorant? Is that what you said? And it's not that they're not intelligent. It's that we are so complex.
Mm-hmm.
We are so, we can go so deep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to say that men cannot, but it seems like there's a lot of depth that women carry. And I feel, I actually do, not that women who don't have children can't feel deeply. That's not true. But because we are the holders of the lineage and the womb space, the creativity,
Mm-hmm.
there's I'm going to probably cry a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's a deep connection to birth and death.
Yes.
Even on a monthly basis, when a woman starts to have her bleed, there's a death that happens that, for sure, in my era, this was never talked about. So I'm so glad to see young women are speaking about it in a more beautiful, sacred way instead of, the kind of thing that I grew up with, and celebrating it and having ceremony with the first bleed. And it's a life-changing event. It's like in the old days. Here's what I think a big problem is we don't have those sacred rituals. We don't have the young man, the young boy going out by himself to go catch some sort of animal to show that he can survive on his own and come back to the tribe with as a man.
Correct.
Just survive. Similar with a woman, we don't have the ritual of the women of the tribe coming around her and celebrating her first bleed and saying, "You are a woman now. Here's opportunities that happen once you're a woman." And that doesn't mean every girl who's whatever age should have a baby right away, but responsibilities that come with that, and the celebration part, we don't have. So we're kind of like this, sadly, very sadly, this floundering kind of like, oh, I got my period and I don't even know what to do with it and I don't know who to talk to. And young
Yeah.
boys don't have that sense of accomplishment. They don't have that sense of purpose.
I think I think it might have something to do with the concept that they think that men are supposed to be functional and not deep, and women are supposed to be deep because they're the nurturers of families and kids. And this is a misconception. So you have a bunch of a generation of men and generations of men that stick to the surface, the practicalities of living, must go out and hunt and bring home food for the family, ain't got time to do any introspection. A lot of them have grown up with this concept. But I want to move on to the concept of femininity. Now, we keep throwing around this concept of divine feminine. I want to say something here, and this is going to be from my ignorant perspective. When people say that word, I think they have this idea of some arcane feminine archetype, some grandiose Cleopatra type figure. I want to say a few things. My grandmother grew up in the 1930s, okay? She was born, but she pretty much grew up in the 1930s. She had a first child in the early 1930s. Her husband died very early, and she raised 5 children in the 1930s. She is literally the matriarch of that family. This is a woman that you don't have to think about, oh, is she a respectful woman? She drags respect out of you with her presence. I am seeing a lot less of this, and I'm telling you why. Because there seems to be a concept that women have to be this mythical Cleopatra figure, right? I grew up in a time where there were a lot of women who got up and did what they had to do with or without men. There was no feminism where I grew up, but these women are the definition of what I see as divine feminine. They grew up, they never lost their femininity, and they did what they had to do. And these are the kinds of women that they literally drag respect out of you. You have no choice. It's something that comes out of you when you see them walking. There's royalty in them. So that is my understanding of divine femininity. What I don't understand in terms of this kind of idea of this Cleopatra figure is that it brings an unrealistic expectation, and then people put on airs of the Cleopatra type figure without the substance. Does that make sense? I'm trying to explain a concept to you.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And it's so interesting because, first of all, your grandmother's amazing. That's so amazing. And she wasn't the only one. That's what all the women had to do, especially during the wars and things like that. Like, all the women had to step up. The sad part is, what happened to her divine feminine? Did it have to step aside so that her divine masculine could step up and take care of those 5 kids?
Mm.
That's where I see it's like a balance, because every one of us, no matter what we look like, no matter what our parts are,
Mm.
we have an equal, well, hopefully have an equal balance of divine masculine, divine feminine within us.
Mm-hmm.
And for me personally, the word divine feminine is a spiritual term, not a royalty.
Yes.
And so it's as oh shoot, what's that word? It's not an entitlement. It's something that you work towards.
Yeah.
It's something that evolves over time, and hopefully you have mentors in your life like your grandmother who can show you, who can pull the respect, self-respect, right? Self-respect is so important. And I feel like that's lacking as well, right? If I don't love myself, how do I teach that to my children?
Yes. Well,
So bringing that balance, into I feel like that's a more popular awareness in these days right now, that a man is absolutely half, well, let's say 50% divine feminine and divine masculine, but he may have put this, like, let's say this is the divine feminine, and they've done that because it's embarrassing, because, their dad wanted them to be more militant or whatever, or strong, or, instead of artistic, as we were talking about before. And so you've had to like cover that up for fear of, being emotional. Um, it really makes my heart ache to know that that's such a common thing out there. And I had a child who was very sick, and I remember getting letters from the teacher saying, he cries every day. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, he's allowed to cry every day if he feels overwhelmed. And then we realized there was actually something going on for him. And yeah, we took him through this amazing therapy to open up his hearing. And then his self-esteem dropped, and it was actually dramatic. And but had we not done that with him, he would have gone on to struggle his whole life with tears right there brimming. Now he's able to manage the emotions because of the other stuff that we've done with him. Sorry, I kind of got off topic, but
no, it's fine. No, it's fine actually, because I wanted to talk about women in the different phases of life. Now, you have a situation where a girl is born. Okay? Let's talk about that period, the developmental stages there, the early development. And it's changed over the years. Okay? So now, and it's not gotten better. That's just the thing. I don't know why we haven't gotten the acculturation of girl children in society correct over generations and generations. And I think it has to do with, you have it's split on different constructs. So you have a situation where you have men thinking of what little girls should be. You have women thinking about what little girls should be, and it's changed over time. So one of the most disturbing things I'm seeing is that young girls are being acculturated nowadays to think of relationships and family as a transactional construct. You remember back in the day when you met the guy and you fell in love and you wanted to spend the rest of your life with him and so on? Look at the transaction that has changed over time. Nowadays, it's like you are acculturated that you're supposed to get married at a certain time. Then you go for a certain phase at a certain time. Your biological clock is ticking, so you get this done at a certain time. And it leads to a transactional situation where people are literally meeting each other because they want to fulfill and check off certain social obligations. Does that make sense to you? And that is the death of love and passion and all the things that these love songs and those poems from the Middle Ages were written about. All of that has gone out the window for a more transactional. We're going to buy the house at this time. We're going to, right, have the kids at this time, the picket fence, and and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is not good for femininity, because femininity is not rooted in structured timelines. if I'm not mistaken.
And so I wonder where the shift happened. Is it because of social media? Because when I look on social media, and I have a daughter, so I was very aware of it when she was a teenager and she wanted to be on it, and I'm like, no. My husband used to always say, it's evil, it's the devil. Like social media was,
Mhm.
evil entity, and he's actually right, but he didn't even realize back then how right he was. um, and so she wanted to be on whatever the thing was at the time,
Facebook.
Facebook probably, I guess, back
Mhm.
then. And um, there's like in my day, I compared myself to the girls in my classroom.
Mhm.
So I had this little world, and we had everybody. We had people who were economically a lot less well off than me, and some that were more. And we didn't know that. We didn't even know that. We played together at school, and you all wore, jeans, and you rough tumbled, and you did whatever. And
Mhm.
there there was no comparison. Comparison started coming in high school, right?
Mhm.
And but with my daughter's age, it started earlier, because you'd see pictures of things on, oh, she's got this, oh, she got a new outfit, oh, I got to get a new outfit, just all this crap that went into their head. And so it has shifted there, because I was not a Facebook person at all. That era, that 30, 40, 20s, those people are living in a world that is not based on reality.
Yeah.
It's based on whatever you feel you want to share with the world in your happy moments. Things
Yes.
are going well, and I bought this new outfit, so I want to share that with the world, or I just made this beautiful meal, or whatever. And yeah, I agree. I never used to say that it was the devil or evil, but it is not healthful. It's not healthful for our bodies, and it's not healthful for our mental health. It's not healthful for our spiritual.
It's also an avenue for the most toxic and insane people to air their views and amplify their views into the social space and poison a whole generation of people. This transactional nature, which is the next thing that I want to cover, women in relationships, right, is probably the reason for the death and the rising divorce rate of a lot of aspects. Now, let's talk about women in relationships just briefly here. You have a situation in our day and age, and I keep going back to this transactional thing. Give me your body, I will give you money.
Mm.
It's crazy to me. There is no difference between that and prostitution, which is the death of also self-respect. Because in that transaction, there is no respect. So I want to say something here. It's become the norm that if you go on social media, you'll hear a bunch of women saying, I'm only marrying a man with money. Okay, nothing wrong with that because you want to talk about security. What are you giving the man? And that's usually the question. So the misogynist circles say, oh, all women are gold diggers. Not true. It's a generalization. And then you have the toxic feminine culture. There's a toxic feminine culture that are telling women, if he doesn't do this, if he doesn't spend this, then the man is not worth it. So women in relationships have become a very tenuous thing, where you have a kind of glorified prostitution that is happening, and it is being normalized. So all those poets I'm talking about, we're talking about Shakespeare, John Donne, right? Ovid from the Greek days, Catullus, and all these things. They talked about this divine connection between man and woman. They would be horrified, turning in their graves. All that. So why is it important to have a connection when you are in a relationship with somebody? I mean more than just mutual respect, but just a connection. Why is this important?
Mm.
If you are a woman, of course.
It's, yes, like you said, security, but the more deep thing, the thing that, really comes to me is the union. Like when you can come into a relationship with another person, a man,
Hmm.
you feel that deep safety,
Hmm.
then there's a lot of other things that can be healed through that connection.
Yes.
So, and yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about my story. I was in a deep depression for many years, and part of it was because of um, lack of sexual satisfaction. I had a very high libido,
Hmm.
and when I started to speak up for myself with my husband, who I loved,
Hmm.
I started realizing this needs to work before the other parts, before the vagina works, because they're like mirrors of each other.
Yes.
Even the tissue is similar. And so when I would speak up for what I needed more in the bedroom, other things were healing and the depression was lifting. So I also feel like my depression was like a self-made hell
Hmm.
that I created for myself because I wasn't speaking what I desired, what I needed.
Hmm.
Because in relationship, I have I have a lot of emotion, and my husband is like a solid, stable, really
Hmm.
responsible, solid kind of guy. But he could not go deep with me in that arena. And so when I just started speaking about it, he didn't have to understand me, but I still had to say it out loud. And
Yes, and yeah, it's the mutual respect. He respected you enough to listen to what you had to say.
and to allow, that awkward moments where I would say, I feel really vulnerable saying this to you. Here we are married 30 years. And I'd say, this feels really vulnerable to me to ask this to you. And he'd be like, well, why? Well, but like, why? Because like, obviously if he wanted something, he would ask me. And I didn't even know where the vulnerability was coming from. Probably from a young child asking for what I wanted using my voice. I was a very bubbly child, and saying, I want this, or I want to go here, or whatever it was that I wanted, and being shut down. And, being the line, I'd cross the line with my parents. And a lot of times, yeah, I was told to be quiet and you're too loud, and smack on the back of the head because I was too joyful. And so I learned how to stop asking for what I wanted because
Yeah.
I was afraid that I might get reprimanded. And I took that into my relationship. That wasn't him. When I
Yeah.
found out to speak it, then it's like being safe enough, me feeling safe enough to go into that vulnerability, didn't understand why or where it came from, and just being able to say, I feel really vulnerable asking you this right now. And I think we don't do that. I know we don't do it because I work with women and they'll tell me, oh, I could never ask my husband for that. I could never say that to my husband. And it's like, well, who would you say it to? If it, like, you're telling me because you're cathartically getting it out of your body, but he needs to hear this. If he loves you and wants this deeper relationship with you.
Hmm.
And honestly, men are wonderful. I love men, but sometimes they are oblivious.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
don't want to go into that shaky spot where he might
Well,
start crying.
well, they are dealing with their own traumas as well, and they are definitely taught to keep their traumas and their stuff inside, right? Nobody wants to hear a man express his feelings, is what they are taught and what they learn from their parents.
So there's this beautiful woman, Ellison Armstrong, and she's written several books about relationship and communication.
Mm-hmm.
And one of her books called The Queen's Code, which is brilliant. It's a simple kind of romance book, but she puts in all of her concepts into it. And people have said, oh, it's not a very good piece of literature. It's a great read because she puts into, she uses examples from this storyline of how her concepts worked. And one of the biggest things is it takes a man. If I say to my husband, how do you feel about going out tomorrow night? I need to stop, shut this, and wait for 60 seconds for him to be able to access. He would like to go to a movie, or he would like to go with see our friends.
Linda, let me cut across you here. Guys, listen to this technique she just said, because this could actually save your relationship. You gotta wait.
But it's the women. I need the women to shut their mouth. It's the woman who has to ask the question. It's legit, whatever it is. What do you think I look great in this outfit? And he pauses. And I'm offended. He paused. He should have said, you look great. Instead, he's trying to figure out which word is the word that he feels right now. And it takes him 60 seconds. This is how she explains it. There's a well. There's a deep well that men have. It takes 60 seconds to put that bucket down into the well to get the water. And the water is the answer, the emotion. This is how I think you feel. This is how you look right now. Pulling that back up takes 60 seconds. And what have I already done as the female? I've already asked him 3 more questions. So now he's like, oh, which question does she want me to answer? So now he's frozen. And that's that bucket that, he's going like this, putting it down, and then he's going like this, pulling it up, and then he's putting it down. And it never gets to the bottom because I keep asking friggin' questions. So if I can keep my mouth shut,
yes,
I need to ask a question and shut my mouth and wait and just wait. And I'll tell you what, it's a life changer.
It is a life changer, and I could see exactly how that technique would work. Because usually when people ask me questions, well, over the years, I've developed to try to do that faster. But over the years, when people have asked me questions, I actually need to ruminate on the answer. The reason why that is that there is programming that says, give the correct answer and the right information, which requires you to literally do a mini meditation to pull it back out. And I can see absolutely what you're talking about here.
Yeah. So then here's the poor man standing there, right? And he's thinking, I really want to just go run out to the garage right now because it's too much. There's too much going on in his mind of past arguments they've had or things like that, right? So he's like, oh no, not this, right? So he either wants to retreat or he just wants to blurt out anything. Yeah, you look fine. Yeah, like something like that. And that's never the right answer, by the way. Looking fine, right? But this also works with other people, not just men. For example, my daughter, when she was, a teenager, we had a lot of tumult between us. And then she got older, and I don't know, suddenly I got wiser and I realized I'm going to shut my mouth. So instead of her saying something and me trying to fix it right away and it becoming like an argument, she wasn't trying to argue with me. It became an argument because I kept trying to fix her, which is, by the way, what most men want to do with their wives or their girlfriends, because they want to help them. They see a need and they want to help them. But my daughter, she just needed to vomit it out and get it out of her body, which is how I should know this. I should have known this. So instead, I started keeping my mouth shut and waiting for silence. And I'm telling you, it was hard. And then she'd go, well, What do you think? Because she was ready. And sometimes I would see that she was silent and I think she was ready. And I would say, do you want me to say anything or are you just venting? And she'd say, no, I need to say something else, blah, 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 blah. And I'd say, okay. And she goes, okay, now I'm ready.
Understood.
It's completely magical.
Understood. Look, I think when it comes to relationship navigation between men and women, I can only speak from the men's side. The pressures that men deal with in a relationship situation are number one, being worthy of the woman. Now, that may sound counterintuitive. And I'm going to say something to you guys, and it's on social media, but I could pretty much tell you guys a lot of what men do is usually for the woman and for the family. And some of it may be seen as selfish and self serving. And I'll explain to you what I mean. There'd be a whole bunch of unemployed men if it wasn't for getting the wife um, and being gainfully employed to date. A lot of men tend to want to try to get women through other means. So they put on tattoos, they do a bunch of stuff that they wouldn't have done normally. Okay? All in the aid of attracting the opposite sex. They even do really, really stupid things. The whole concept of machismo is based on attracting the opposite sex. You really think that? Let me explain something to the women in this thing. You really think, and it's a false concept because women's wants have changed over the years. However, the core things that women want, the concept of safety, of security, and so on, and being in connection with their partner hasn't changed. But the flavor of it has changed. So Mr. Machismo is out nowadays, and Mr. Businessman might be in. Right? Mr. Free Rider Biker Dude is out. You really think people want to be wearing spikes and stuff? And nobody cares about that, right? They want to impress the women so that they can have the relationship. Now, I honestly think that in terms of relationship navigation, communication is key, as you just said. Okay? But men have a problem communicating exactly what it is that they want. Okay? And sometimes it comes across in the absolute wrong way. There is a point where you ask a man a bunch of questions, and then that well is going to be like like a pressure cooker, and all the water comes out, and it usually comes out negatively. That well that you were talking about, it's easy when you just dip and pull it out and dip and pull it out, but when that thing explodes, it usually is not good for any relationship and the self-esteem of the woman, and it damages relationships completely. You've seen that in your practice, I'm sure.
Yes. And so I don't have it right beside me right now, but you could take anything, I usually use like a crystal or something. I'll have several crystals here on the table, but I've just got a sticky notepad right now. And so what my husband and I do, and this is a nonviolent communication tool. And when I first heard about it, I was like, nonviolent? I don't throw things. I'm not nonviolent. I'm not violent. But when I watched the teachers in their relationship, I was like, holy cow, I am so passive aggressive. I am so violent.
Yeah.
I was shocked and I was embarrassed. And okay. So I come home from this workshop and I want to use this with my husband. And so I have crystals, just not right here. And so I put some on the table and I said to him, we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk about something. And we had a discussion in the morning, and I was very upset about the result of it because, again, he was not speaking quick enough for me. So you take the gem or the whatever in your hand, and whoever has it is the one who gets to speak.
Uninterrupted.
100% uninterrupted, and you speak in the moment. You don't say last week and the week before, and you don't do that. It's about right now. Right now, I feel scared because when you said you don't care, I think you don't care about me. And if you don't care about that issue, then you don't care about me. Are you going to leave me? And like, that's what this is. You have it in your hand and you speak about your feelings. When I'm ready, and it might be a minute or two or five, when I'm ready and I feel like I've emptied my bucket, I'll put it down on the table, and then he can pick it up when he's ready.
Ah, you've modified the talking stick.
So I don't shove it at him and make him speak. I put it down and he picks it up when he's ready to speak. And honestly, we've used this so many times. And at first he was terrified. And he's a joker. So he'd say, "Oh, we're going to use the rock, are we?" Because he would, he wanted to make a joke out of it that I might throw the rock. And that was never the point. But so then when he does eventually pick it up, he's even said to me, I got nothing. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't know what you want me to say. And I just sit. I'm telling you, it's hard. It's a practice. And I just sit. I don't even, there's no nodding. There's no shaking head. There's no, You just sit. And then all of a sudden, something will bubble up and he'll speak. But it's probably 60 seconds because I've counted it.
Well, you've counted it, have you?
Hard to do. But I'll tell you, out of those, I don't know, what is it, 15, 20 minutes that we have these, there's no time limit, but when we have had these situations and both of us feel so much lighter. We feel, I like, it feels like a cleaning, like
Yes.
you've gotten this ick off your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you've cleaned that off, kind of. It's like a spring clean. You're cleaning that off. It's a similar tool that I use when I do my authentic heart workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about how you feel. So when he is going to speak about how he feels, he's speaking in response to what I just brought up. I don't feel safe. And then he says, "Well, I'm confused about why you wouldn't feel safe. I'm not going to leave," or whatever. And then I can, or maybe not, maybe something else bubbles up from underneath that's like, okay. And then also, I'm really worried about tomorrow. I'm worried about, this thing that we have to go do that I've never done before. I'm really worried. And so you're allowing it to come up. And then he might reply with, "Yeah, I was thinking about that thing tomorrow too, and I'm kind of nervous," or you know what I mean? Like it's amazing what in those moments. And I'm telling you, the first time I did this with him, we've been married 30 years. I was so nervous that he was going to laugh and say, "This is stupid," because he's a bit of a joker. And I'm like, I need to do this. I just went away and took this class and I really want to do this. I want to be different. I don't want to be the girl who does the passive aggressive baloney, because that's what I learned from my mom. Give them silent treatment. Don't punish them by not speaking. I don't want to do that anymore. So yeah, our relationship shifted when I came home with that tool.
Well, we have two more topics to discover here. So let's talk about women and sexuality. Now,
You got to narrow it down, David, because this could be an entire 3-hour interview with me.
yeah, I'm thinking that we probably need to break this interview up. Listen, But we're going to gloss over it, and then we're probably going to come back and talk about this at some point in time when you have the time, Linda, as you feel. Women and sexuality. Let's talk about this concept. You have two sides of a coin, and both sides are not necessarily the good sides of the coin. You have either the woman who views sexuality as a suppressed construct. I have where I live now, presently, which is pretty much where you live, Linda. There is this is 2025. The concept of taboo sexuality is still a thing. You have a generation of girls growing up and they're not talking about sexuality. There's not something, and this is on a man and the woman's side. This is something that a lot of women outsource their agency, their sexual agency, to, well, the man will know what to do. No. Communication once again. Why would you not ask for the things that you want in a sexual relationship? That's also, so you have the suppressed side of the coin. And then you have the other side of the coin, which also gets a bad rap because you got the slut shamers everywhere. So you have a woman who's fully embodied, who knows exactly what she wants out of a sexual relationship and knows herself in terms of a sexual being, who openly talks about things like, I don't know, masturbation, who will go to the sex shop, who will buy the sex toy, who will buy the vibrator. I'm saying this loud or stuff so that everybody can hear that we're having an open discussion, right? And then that woman would be, oh no, the sex fiend, the slut, and so on. And what's interesting about it is that she will not be only shamed by men; she will also be shamed by women.
Yeah.
And I find that there is no winning at all. The women that try to be in between usually end up with a bad rap because that fence that you're walking on is a very thin fence. And you might fall on either side of that fence at any point in time. So there is no, you got to choose your poison. And most women would choose the safe poison, the suppressed thing, and be unhappy for years and years to come. Linda, your opinion?
Yeah, it's very sad because that is the life that I lived. I was super suppressed, mostly through religion.
I can't imagine you suppressed, Linda. Linda, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm having a problem here. I can't imagine you suppressed. Please tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know I was suppressed, honestly, because we didn't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
My circle of people did not talk about it. And so I would say that we were all suppressed. And actually, even my group of high school friends, we all were virgins when we got married. And, you know, that was part of the problem for me was I didn't know. I only knew vanilla sex. I only knew what my husband and I created together. And it was not satisfying for me. So a big part of what you're talking about, I feel, is the libido. So you got religion over here and you got patriarchy,
Mm-hmm.
and they got rules about what things should look like and shouldn't look like. But you also have a person's libido. So if my libido is really strong, which it was, and my husband's was not as strong, that's like a, you know, that's a your walk, or you know, what is it, there's a saying that goes about, you know, missing in the dark or something like that. But so I even years ago had a friend who said, well, why don't you make appointments? You know, we had little kids. We had little kids. Who's going to have the energy or the time to have sex?
Mm-hmm.
And so she said, yeah, make an appointment. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the most ridiculous thing. Well, 10 years later, when I finally realized that that might actually be the answer, it was totally the answer. We made appointments. I'd say, okay, this week, 9 o'clock on Wednesday after the kids are at school, you know, Friday, how does that work for you? Yeah, sure. It sounded super clinical, and
Yes, that's what it sounds like. And in a lot of people's heads, it's going to be like, oh, that's going to take the passion out of my relationship.
but we weren't having sex before. So now it's like, why don't I at least try
this out.
appointment? But what would happen was, I need the beautiful sensual story. I need the music playing. I need the candles lit. Well, we were never doing that before because we were just trying to squeeze it in between some kid waking up or some kid going to school or gym class or whatever, right? So now it was a event, and it would be in the morning because that was when we were both wide awake. And he would create this beautiful nest and put the candles on and put the music playing, and I would, be getting ready and come into the room, and that made me feel so held. And that got the foreplay was knowing that he was creating this beautiful space for me. So this appointment actually became the best thing that ever happened.
When we in the future, we're going to have a talk about women and sexuality, but I'm going to introduce something off in left field here. The concept of what we call the erotic blueprints. You've heard of those?
Oh yeah. Oh, they changed my life.
All right, and so let's talk about the erotic blueprints for a moment.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what the erotic blueprints are, there are 5 erotic blueprints, if I'm mistaken. No, yeah, there are 5 of them. So you have the sensual, which is what Linda was describing, and that individual is, how should I say, they're stimulated by the sights, the smells, the sounds of the room, and so on, right? And so that's what turns them on. You have
and also what turns them off is the dirty sock in the corner.
And the dirty sock in the corner would turn them off, right?
Like that.
And so the second erotic blueprint would be the sexual. And this is the kind of individual who, well, all you need is the object, really, right? They will get off by just looking at your naked body, right? Don't bother with the lingerie. We don't give a damn about that. Let's just take off the clothes and get it on quickly. Okay, that's the sexual blueprint. The next blueprint that we're going to go through is the shapeshifter blueprint. I'm not doing them in order, and that is the individual that can move between the blueprints very, very easily. Okay,
needs all of them.
Right, and they will stop doing all of these things. Right, they need all the stimulation. The next blueprint that we're going to go into is the kink blueprint. Okay, now the kink blueprint, and I'm going to save the energetic for last actually. The kink blueprint is the individual that needs a taboo kind of situation for them to get off. So the kink blueprint is the kind of person that you will try things with. They will watch the porn with you and say, oh, we're going to try that, right? They will be into S&M because S&M is not a bad thing. They will want to be choked, tied, that kind of thing. Kink.
And it also doesn't have to be that extreme. It could just be, we've always done missionary. Let's try something different.
Correct.
Pushing your comfort zone is kink as well.
And here's the thing that really, and the last blueprint has to do with the energetic. So let me explain the energetic. I saved it for the last because it's kind of difficult to explain. And so the energetic blueprint, unique individual. It is the energy that makes the difference. It is the vibe. It is you don't even need to touch this individual for them to achieve orgasm, so to speak. It's in the mind. It's the visuals in the mind. It is the connection that is important with the energetic person. Now, the problem with this individual, and the good thing about this individual, is that sex with energetic people is intense. However, they get turned off easily. They get turned off easily. So, as an example, if you overstimulate an energetic person, like an energetic person typically doesn't get along well with a sexual person. Let's drop the clothes and let's get it on, right? And so people misalign because people are in different blueprints at different times and they can change over time.
And
Now,
for a woman, they can change in the month. When your
correct.
hormones, you're suddenly super raging horny, and now you're a sexual for about 2 days, and you're freaking your husband out or your boyfriend because you're on top and you're doing whatever, and then you go into the next phase in your cycle, and you're like an energetic. Don't touch me. Oh my God, too fast, too hard, too whatever. Right? Like the hormones also play, and that's very confusing for the partner.
Which is why I brought this up exactly. Now, this erotic blueprints, I highly suggest that you guys check it out. I probably will include a link somewhere. I believe I did a webinar on this some time ago. Guys, if you are, this is a good key for you, right? These are for the men. It's a good key to learn the erotic blueprints because, as Linda said, for a woman, it can change in the day, right? Women's cycles are different from men's cycles. Men generally have a 24-hour cycle because of the physicality of them, the biology, meaning that in the morning you're going to wake up with testosterone at level 10. Okay? The whole concept of getting an erection in the morning. Women generally go for a 28-day cycle, and sometimes your cycles don't align well.
And I'll tell you the beautiful thing about it too. So Miss Jaya is the one that I had followed and learned about this. This is her work,
Mm-hmm.
the 5 erotic blueprints. And she had a quiz. So this is now 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
She had a quiz online that you could do. And it was very basic. You pick A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D. And I kept thinking, I kept feeling like, oh, but I want to answer A and C. But I had to pick one. So what it came up was that I was sensual. Okay.
Yeah.
That was, we already knew that. But what it also came up with was when my husband did it, is he's almost a pure sexual. So when the two of us met in the bedroom, it was never hitting until I started asking for what I needed, which was the candles and the music.
Yes.
When I was going to make a soundtrack for lovemaking, he burst out laughing. And I said, "Why did you laugh?" He goes, "I didn't laugh." I said, "Yes, you did. You just laughed." He goes, "Well, I don't even hear.
He doesn't need it. That's why
I
he left.
don't hear anything. You can have music if you want. I don't care. I don't need it." And I said, "I do. I do, but I didn't even know how much I did." So what in the whole year, because I had taken the course with her, in the whole year of practicing these meetings that we were having, on Wednesdays and Fridays, and having my sensuality be satiated, I had no idea how much I had shifted. And there was something in me that was like, I kind of want to do that quiz again just to see where I still, like, where do I reside? And she had modified the quiz. So now you actually get to choose A and C if you want to. So I went through the quiz again, and it comes up that I'm 50% sensual and 50% energetic.
And
That is
that
100% sexual. 100%. So you can see how the energetic sensual, but my energetic couldn't even come up fully because my sensual wasn't satiated.
yes.
And I didn't feel 100% safe until I started speaking for what I needed. Okay, you're going too fast. Okay, and he's like, my hand is hardly moving. And I said, it's too fast. Because my energetic was starting to come up. And, going like this over my arm, just like literally not even touching, was too fast. No wonder he was so confused all the time.
All right. So here's the thing with that. I want to leave that there because I want to cover one more topic because this definitely wasn't enough time to talk about womanhood and femininity. I want to leave this because I want to cover another topic. But guys, check out the erotic blueprints. I suppose I could leave a link to the quiz. The quiz has been modified. I'm
Yeah.
also a student of Jayama, by the way.
Yeah.
So, so um, the quiz has been modified specifically for you guys to take a quiz and see where you land and where your partner lands. I think I'm going to leave it in the bio or in the links below so I can send this quiz to you guys. The last concept that I want to talk about is womanhood and femininity as it relates to motherhood.
And here's the thing. I wanted to be a mom since I was 14. I
Uh-huh.
had the vision. I knew exactly what I wanted, the husband, the two kids. I didn't see myself going to university. I didn't see myself having this big career. I wanted to be a mom. When it came, I had never been, I didn't have a lot of role models. So
Mm-hmm.
I struggled. It was a struggle. I really didn't know how to nurture because I also had not nurtured myself. So when I learned how to nurture through having my children, some mothers are mother bears. Their feminine protective energy is just like rah, and just envelops the children, and it also includes other children if they happen to be in the yard or in the neighborhood, right? Whereas for me it was like, okay, I have this child and I have to make sure he's fed, and it took months and months for that to grow in me. It's not, people think that it's like a instinct.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've been trained out of the instinct because we're not around other, back in the day when a 14-year-old girl would have gone to her auntie's house to help with the other children when she had the next child. And so
Mm-hmm.
she saw childbirth, she saw little children, she was changing diapers, and she would help out there. Our mothers and grandmothers had that lived experience. We don't have that anymore. We're so isolated. So I feel so sad when I hear stories of what I'm going to consider postpartum depression comes from lack of support.
Yes.
Lack of support, lack of knowing what you're getting yourself into because we're not around our aunties and our cousins, and we're the older cousin and we see our little cousin, or we're babysitting our little cousin or whatever, like we're so isolated, which is so not supportive to families in any way, and for sure not helpful for motherhood.
I think a lot of the concepts around motherhood are rooted in misinformation, and it's a heavy load to bear when you get the wrong kind of misinformation. What with motherhood comes a certain level of societal expectation, and so when a young woman has a child, she is getting pressure from the partner, depending on whether that partner is supportive or not supportive. You're a woman, you're supposed to do this. Like learn to change a diaper, god damn it, right? She's getting pressure from her parents
Mhm.
because the mother before her did it a certain way, did motherhood a certain way, and she's expected to follow the same path that the mother is expected. She is getting pressure from her spouse's parents as well because they did it a certain way. And that's a heavy load burden to carry. So now in back in the day, you're talking about a village situation where people all pitched in to help raise children. That is no longer a thing. You have a situation where you have a bunch of women who nobody prepares you for motherhood. There's no manual that you can actually make and so on that says, oh, this is the motherhood manual. Believe me, I tried to create one with some women. You want to know how that ended? I'll tell you exactly how that ended. It ended in anarchy. One woman's concept of motherhood is completely different from another woman's concept of motherhood. I literally had like a little a board of women, and they're like, no, 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 this is not how you do it. This is not how you do it. Like, I'm like, so y'all actually don't have a set stable construct. that says that motherhood is done this way. And honestly, Linda, I think that motherhood for a lot of women is actually a traumatic experience for a lot of them, specifically because of the burden that is put on them, the expectations that are put on them, and so on. And people are like, well, why don't you just get it? You're a woman. You should be natural at this. No.
And I feel like in my situation, I don't think there was enough estrogen running through my body. I think I had a lot more testosterone from a young age. And so as I went through menopause, I started learning more about, yeah, I think I've been lacking estrogen for a long time. It did not come natural for me. The milk did not come easily. It wasn't abundant for me. And so I struggled with that as well for breastfeeding. So,
Did you have to go through the judgments?
well, yeah, I remember when he was crying and my mother-in-law said, well, you're just going to have to get a bottle because that's what happened for her. And I thought, no, how did we survive for thousands of years without bottles? Breasts have to be the natural, normal way to do this. Otherwise, humanity wouldn't still be alive. So, what is wrong with me? And so I internalized that. And that's when I went to La Leche League, which is the breastfeeding support group. And that was life saving, because that was the community that I didn't have. So here were these women who were leaders who had 4 and 3 children, were nursing a toddler, which I'd never even had, the concept of nursing a toddler because I'd never seen it done before. And then there's other women with their babies and they're all different ages. And I'm one, he's 1 month old and I'm sitting there and I'm just, tears are just streaming down my face because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. It was really healing. But sadly, I don't know how many of those live meetings are still happening. I know there's an online presence that people will Google, but the being in person with sisters who are going through, and they're maybe a month ahead of you or a year ahead of you or 10 years ahead of you, and then you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. I have a question about this. Yeah, I had that problem too, So, yeah.
Honestly, I'm going to tell you a man's story about motherhood. I was a grown man doing like going to work and stuff like that. But I wasn't prepared necessarily for life, okay? So, the single bachelor type guy who isn't prepared for life, going about life in the worst way possible. And I realized that I didn't learn how to cook really well. And then there was this Indian lady who saw my plight, me eating badly and stuff like that. And she taught me how to cook Indian meals. And then there was this Muslim lady. Motherhood is a cat. Let me tell you something. Okay? Their children had grown up and left. And I became immediately the son. Let me tell you something from the man's perspective here. Motherhood is invaluable, and it doesn't always occur between a biological woman and a biological son. Because I keep telling people 99% of, more than probably higher, right? And this is not exaggeration, of the things that I've learned in life, I learned it from women. The seminal things that made differences in my life, that took left and right turns, I learned from women. So this woman took pity on me and taught me how to cook. Another woman took pity on me and taught me how to meditate.
Mm.
And it wasn't because they were like, oh, there's somebody who needs to learn. It was because they saw that I needed that thing. Motherhood is not something that expires when your kids stood 18 years of age. And it's also not always conscribed to your kids. So I have been extremely fortunate that in the depths of sometimes where I've been wrong in life, there was always a woman An older woman that said, hey, you, do it this way. And I have actually benefited a lot from that. There are not too many men out here. Just recently, a woman taught me how to needle felt out here where I live. Needle needle felting? You know this, right? That is extremely peaceful. That's an extremely peaceful hobby. Anyway, she taught me how to needle felt. I have learned a lot of things from women. So when we're talking about motherhood, and women think, well, my children are gone and they're gone, there's no use for me. There are people like me that need you, okay? Because I need a bomb, okay? I need a bomb at my age. I am still learning things from women. I am still learning little things from women that have enhanced my life dramatically. I think that motherhood, when people think about it, they think about it in very narrow terms, right? Like, I wish there was a motherhood association somewhere where wayward males who don't know anything about life could go and learn some stuff, okay? Because I learned, let me tell you the things I've learned. I've learned how to meditate from women. I've learned how to sew. I've learned how to do something like knitting. Like, you wouldn't think that would be necessary, but it is. I've learned how to do needle felting, right? Another woman taught me a whole bunch of metaphysics. Okay, I came into the esoteric spectrum or the spiritual spectrum via women. They looked at me, they saw this is a young man that needs guidance, and they took it upon themselves. Not to mention, a woman taught me classical background to Western literature, which is the foundation of everything that we are as a Western civilization. So these are the kinds of things that I want to say when it comes to motherhood. It is underrated, and people think of it in too narrow a terms. When you're a mother, you're a mother. You're not just a mother to your kids, you're a mother, period, because you have skills that I can use, right? You have skills that can be transferred to other people. And so I have benefited from the global village mentality. And so when people meet me and say, oh, you're very idle, you learn all these things. No, I just met some really good women in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And I feel like that is being a woman. Like we're natural teachers. We may not be the teacher who comes and stands in front of the classroom or whatever, but in the house we're teaching them how to hold a pen. We're teaching them how to tie their shoes, even though most kids have Velcro these days. But even that, showing them how to put their Velcro across and put their clothes on, and okay, take your plate and take it to the kitchen. Everything we do with children is teaching.
Yeah, I want to say something here. Like I could call out like these people. I want to call out people like Nimo Ramchandani who taught me how to cook, right? I want to call out people like Zuli, right, who taught me how to make chaplas and all that kind of stuff. I want to call out people who taught me, Lady Nichols, who taught me these things, right? Even recently, Donna Kruger was teaching me something in a store downtown in the broom closet. These are the kinds of things which people underrate matriarchs for. I'm going to tell you that in my personal life, there were times when I was going down a really wrong road. Okay, specifically because it was male taught. Like, as an example, I was telling you a story about myself earlier on. I was put down a toxic masculinity role at a very early age, through abuse and all of that stuff, in martial arts training. It took a woman to see my anger and my rage to tell me, would you like a sesame seed sweet? I keep telling this story. Let me tell you the story of the sesame seed sweet. A woman gave me sesame seed sweets. And you know the little honey things with the sesame seeds in it?
Oh
Okay,
yes.
back then, that was like, yeah, the bomb, right? Anyway, and she got me into meditation. And she got me into meditation via the sesame seed sweets because I was addicted to those things. And that has changed my life. I would have probably been dead or a very unpleasant individual had it not been for that intervention. And it wasn't the kind of intervention that said, yo, get down and do 10 push ups, right? Or whatever else. It was the kind of compassionate intervention that says, have a sesame seed sweet and chill to hell out.
Yeah, the mom.
And you can't beat that. You can't beat that. And I have remembered those those extensions of kindness towards me, and I have never forgotten them. That's the value of motherhood and the value of the matriarch. That's the balancer that we're talking about. So honestly, guys, well, we've come to the end of this interview. Linda, I want to give you props. You've done a number of initiatives over the years, but none so more important than the Authentic Heart Workshop. Could you tell people about it and how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, thank you. That's what the beauty of my Authentic Heart workshops are, is the fact that we have that container for people to vomit into their feelings, their emotions, held by another sister or brother, with no advice, no fixing, no interrupting, no like, oh, it's going to be okay. It's like, no, you respect each other's space and sharing, and then also moving our body, getting the lymphatic moving, getting that anger running through and out of the body, and smashing the air, and getting out the vocals. So I recently had a workshop, and one lady at the very end, she came to me to give me a hug at the end, and she whispered in my ear, I've never felt this much love before.
Yeah.
And it was like, yes, now that you've gotten some grief out, you've gotten some anger out, you've been in the space where you were held and witnessed, now more love can flow through. Her heart is instead of it being slammed shut, there's going to be some spaces where the love and the light can flow into her. So she's in a more receptive place for receiving the love. I think that people don't understand. They're like, well, I don't want to cry and be messy. Not everybody was crying. Not everybody cries. Some people do. Some people yell. Some people are quiet. And it's an internal work. I remember recently watching one woman while she was moving, and it looked really pretty like this. It was like the anger dance. And I was like, well, she's moving. I'm not going to go and interrupt her. And then afterwards, she told me that she had this massively cathartic thing come through her body in that moment that I could not have predicted. I did not draw it out of her. I created a space for it to come out. And so all the things that I've been doing my whole life, even the erotic blueprints, knowing the blueprints, understanding that people are sensual and they need to have their back rubbed while they're laying on the floor crying. And someone else is like, no, I'm energetic. Whoa, I'm on overload right now. Like, knowing those things about people has helped me also in the work that I do. So yeah, I said I would do this every weekend. I would go into someone's house in the basement and work with 3 or 4 of their friends and come together, or maybe their sisters or their cousins or whoever. And they have this, like, this is what lights my heart up, is to help people have that safety, feel the safety, feel the love. And they're strangers. I don't know them.
Yeah.
And I may never see them again, but it's really, really powerful release.
Excellent. You see, the initiatives like this, useful. And I'm glad that you're fulfilling your role as a matriarch in our community. I am really happy that you're doing stuff, Linda. And so, guys, you can reach Linda at 306-537-8890, or her email at bellydancewithlinda, BDWL, @me.com. Okay. For those of you who are looking for other means of making your business better, you can check out the store that we have put on screen for you, which is shop.onexa.com. It gives you business solutions that will make your business better without exploiting you. Right. I want to just call out a few people in the community while we're at it. I believe OP's Medium has created a grief connection workshop as well. So, guys, that's in Manitoba. Guys, check it out. There are lots of people doing a lot of good stuff in our community, and it's good to support them. Linda, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure and my honor. Thank you for asking me.
Take care, guys.